Hello, listeners. WSJF is proud to present Episode 5 of Married and Family Living with the Grasleys. Without further ado, here they are, our hosts, Al and Linda Grassley.
Welcome to Married and Family Living with the Grasleys on 92.7 WSJF LP, a show focused on the domestic church, the family, which is the foundation of faith and spirituality. We hope listeners will find our discussions about the challenges of marriage and family helpful and encouraging as we share stories about our married life with 2 kids and a dog. How's it going there, Linda?
It's going pretty well. How about you?
Good. So it is February, and I was wondering how you doing on your New Year's resolutions, Linda?
Well, I'm trying.
Yes, I'm not. I think I've done one of the New Year's resolutions, which is the budget, which is, you can do that on January 1st, and then it's just a matter of following the budget.
Yeah, that's your favorite.
That's my favorite. The weight loss is not going well. I'm still down a quarter pound from the last show. I need to get down about another, a little more.
Well, I think you're doing better than that. Yeah. We have another couple that they're helping us. So we're all working together. That's helping us stick to it. A little accountability with friends, right?
That's exactly right. So if you're having trouble with your New Year's resolutions or you blew it and you still need to get back to doing it, start right now. Start Monday.
All right.
Just give it another shot, start anew, and go from there. So for this show, since it is February,
the month of love.
The month of love. You have to say it with a deep voice when we're talking about February.
I don't have a deep voice like true. You.
So,
Crazy love.
Crazy love. It's very funny. We have a friend, let's call him Bill, whose kids came back over break, and their eldest child is in crazy love with somebody. And it just made me, it's kind of nice to see, actually. I don't know if you're ever around young people who are just in love with each other and just can't be away from each other. It's kind of cool. Yeah. But this kid took his girlfriend back to someplace in Ohio that was like an 11-hour drive one way. And I'm thinking to myself, what you would do for somebody who you're madly in love with. It's just funny.
I remember that feeling.
I know. So it is
college.
February. In college, yes. I remember that too. So what about now? Do you want to?
With us. It was you and I. Yes. I wasn't thinking of anybody else.
No, I wasn't thinking of anybody else either. But as you're going through the married and family living like we currently are now, it's easy to forget that at one point you just couldn't be away from your spouse for any amount of time. It was terrible. You couldn't wait to see him. And it just kind of brought me back to remembering that crazy love feeling. Yeah. So
long time ago.
So,
but I do still feel that way when you have long periods of work, and I'm like, I just miss you. We gotta make time for each other.
Yeah,
it may not be as crazy as crazy college love, but
depends if I get home before your bedtime.
Right, that's the point. Yep,
so that's it. That's the big thing. I got to get home before
crazy.
your bedtime.
I mean, Walmart. We went December 26th, and they had Valentine stuff in the store already.
So did you start eating the chocolate? That's why I'm having a hard time.
Well, I never stop eating chocolate.
Keeping on track with my New Year's resolutions. There's Valentine's candy around as soon as Christmas is over.
Yeah. Doesn't make it easy, does it?
No, it does not. So why don't you tell us about St. Valentine's, Linda, since...
Of course, I had to research it, right? Any history, I got to know. So, he's obviously the patron saint of love, but also young people, kind of fits with our college friend there, and happy marriages. So he died in 2069. The saints, their feast day is always on the day they died. So he obviously...
2069?
I'm sorry, 269.
AD or BC?
Yeah, after Christianity. That's why we have saints, right? Okay, you're good. You're quick.
Got it. Okay.
So, anyway, obviously, this is a time when Christians saw tremendous persecution, and many practiced in secret. So, there's a lot of legends about St. Valentine, but one common story is that he was under house arrest for discussing his faith in public and the validity of Christ. And he was talking to a judge about it, and he immediately put Valentine and his faith to the test. And he said his daughter was blind. Could you do something for her, restore her sight? And so he went right away to the daughter and actually restored her sight.
Really?
Yep. So he freed him from house arrest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But he couldn't help himself because he loved Christ so much that he was arrested again and eventually was executed.
What day was he executed on?
February 14th.
Oh, okay.
269.
Got it. Okay. So that's why his
AD.
feast day is on February 14th. It's all
It's all
becoming
coming
clear
together.
now. Thank you so much for
But
doing
he really
some
did
research.
exist. Archaeologists unearthed his catacomb. And I guess in 1969, the Catholic Church removed St. Valentine from the general Roman calendar, but they still recognize him as a saint. So
Just the chocolate companies. Yes.
Well,
big chocolate.
the church, too.
Church, yeah.
So
It's exciting. Well, thank you for that history lesson. I never knew
sure.
that. But it really doesn't have much to do with love, does it?
I guess the love of Christ.
The love of Christ.
Yeah.
He did crazy things for the love of Christ.
That's right. So this month we're going to be talking about obviously love, but also the grace that we're so blessed with from Christ because we are human and we are imperfect.
Yes.
And you were talking about perspective. I thought that was a really interesting
So
subtopic.
There was a couple of things that reminded me of perspective. One is driving around with you during the break and how you get very mad at people.
Did you have to bring that up?
But from my perspective, it's like, hey, this goes on every day because I
He's
have
talking about driving, the commute to work.
to commute
And,
to work.
Just for the record, how many miles do you put on your car in a week?
Oh, I don't know. It's a lot.
What are you saying? More than you?
No, I don't think it's more
Probably
than
about 200 miles.
yeah, maybe 300. It's about
I'm
the
putting
same.
about 500 on the van a month.
But I
or
guess
a week, I mean.
I guess when
So
I'm driving to work, I expect people to be rude, so
Right.
it doesn't really bother me.
They're
It's like,
more of in a rush, yeah.
yes, you have to
to
get to
get
work
there.
right away.
And to home more
Yes,
quickly
yes,
home.
I cut people off to get it home too. Don't you worry about that.
Oh, great. I didn't need to know that.
But
So
anyway,
back to perspective.
back
yes.
to perspective. So my perspective is, hey, that happens every time. I don't let it bother me. But then sometimes you get a little annoyed with people. But everybody's in a hurry. Everybody's running around.
Yeah, I just want everybody to be safe. That's all. So, okay, go to Saturday Night Live. Weren't you saying you watched a skit?
I did. I had that skit. It was the Christmas skit, and it was Matt Damon and some woman. It was very surprising, first of all, because there was a funny Saturday Night Live skit, which usually doesn't happen.
Well, we don't find them funny.
Well,
right?
I know we're so old now, but it was a couple finishing up Christmas, and all the kids were in bed Christmas Day. Everything's been done, and they were cuddling with each other, and they're like, "Oh, how was your Christmas?" And the father was like, "Oh, it was the best Christmas ever." That's one of my lines, by the way.
Right.
Everything is the best ever. And then they flash back to what exactly happened during Christmas Day, and it was a horrible Christmas.
It was the reality.
The reality
of
of
what
the
really
Christmas.
happened. But then their perspective on it was
It was the best Christmas
joy
ever.
and better. And
Yeah.
So they would say, wasn't it wonderful that the in-laws came by and they're just finding that so joyful? And then they would flash back to the in-laws, throwing insults and
Being rude.
and being rude.
Oh my gosh, like complaining. The traffic was 3 hours to get here. So I really liked that. I watched that a couple times because it's very interesting. The husband and wife didn't tear each other down,
No.
which usually never happens
Right.
on a Saturday Night Live skit. Usually the father's the doofus,
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, but it was kind of nice. And I was like, wow, that's the way we should be looking at things.
Yeah. They found joy in every moment with their family.
Even though
Yeah.
it was terrible.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us about when your perspective changed?
Yeah, I mean, we all have.
I was talking about the time you went skating
Yeah,
with Catherine
Katie and
over
I
break.
went skating. Katie loves to skate. So for whatever reason, it fell through that the whole family wasn't going to go. And I said, no, we're going to go. Let's go. So we ended up going to a rink we don't normally go to. And after a half an hour, the ice really got bad.
How bad was it?
It was
it so
really
bad?
bad. I'm kind of an ice snob.
Was it as bad as the pond we were skating on last
Well,
winter?
a pond, I expect,
I
But
see.
anyway, and there were young kids holding hands, like 4 in a row, and they're all falling over and screaming. And kids, with their parents who can't even skate and they're falling all over. And
were they videotaping their kids as they were skating?
Oh my gosh, the cell phones and selfies
yes,
and videos. It was just crazy. And then I saw this young couple in love, like we were just talking. They were probably the college age, and they were so happy, and they were both pretty good skaters, and they were chasing each other around and once in a while doing a little skating dance. And I thought, isn't that beautiful? Young love. And then I looked around, I'm like, there is love all around this rink. There's parents that can't skate, but they still, despite the fact that they can't skate, are there with their kids because they're creating memories and time with their kids. And the little girls screaming and falling, they must have been there maybe on a birthday party or something, but they valued the friendship, and really just wanted to do something fun together. And then I thought, well, here I am with my daughter. Why? Because she finds joy in skating, and I find joy in her because she's a beautiful soul. And, it was fun.
It was fun. So after you got weaved through all the people, you got behind her and watched her have a good time skating.
Yeah.
That's good.
And we had a good time skating.
That's good.
So it was fun.
So that is the way to change your perspective on things, even though you're having a bad time. We should learn to give grace to everybody, really, because we don't know what's going on. And I think with the family or a marriage, usually you don't give the grace to your spouse as much as you would do a stranger sometimes, right? Because you're just taking, sometimes I just take you for granted. There's not the crazy love. It's like, how come dinner's not ready? I'm a little hungry. I've been working all day. I said I was going to be home at 5:10, and where's dinner?
Right.
So, and I'm sure although I can't remember you ever doing that to me, but I'm sure that happens.
Well, we know, everybody suffers, and you really need to think about, there could be really horrible things going on in people's lives, like they've just had a loss in their family or some kind of crisis.
Or they could be lost their job or going through a government shutdown.
Yike, yep.
So worried about stuff.
Right. So when there's people that maybe aren't like us or hurt us, I always tell my kids in particular, they tell me I make excuses for others, but I just try to place before them the maybes to help us better understand why is somebody acting this way. Sometimes we just have to accept it, but maybe they come from a divorce situation or a loss of parents or financial troubles, illness. Maybe there's some drug abuse in the family or kids in trouble. You just never know these days. It could be anything, but if you can kind of explain it to yourself, well, maybe that's why they are, you can maybe understand a little bit and accept it.
So every time I catch myself doing that, which is quite a lot, I try to think of the gospel where Jesus kind of screams at somebody saying, "You hypocrite, remove the plank from your own eye before you try to remove the speck from your brother." I always think that's kind of funny because according to Jesus, you have a plank in your eye, but your brother just has a speck.
Right.
So stop being judgmental about your brother and try to take care of your own stuff.
So again, it's perspective, right? Both of these examples. And I read a book, I wish I could remember who wrote it, but it was about we all at baptism are blessed with the Holy Spirit. So Christ is in us. And if you think about him physically being inside of you, looking out your eyes, what would he see through your eyes? And what would we see through his? And again, that's going to be perspective because he looks out at us with love. He understands that we are human, and he teaches us that he still loves us despite our many flaws and pours grace into us. And we should do the same to others.
Right. I think you used the word minister or minister to others.
Right.
And we were talking about this before the show. It's like sometimes when you hear that word minister, it's like, oh, I need to find somebody and bring them to God and bring them to Jesus. But really, it's just about being present with somebody who's having a hard time and just being with them. You're listening to Married and Family Living with the Grasleys. We'll be right back after this message.
Danny Gallagher back again from WSJF. If you've been enjoying Al and Linda Grassley's monthly down-to-earth sharing of their marriage and family ups and downs and what they've learned from those experiences, please consider donating to the radio station. To do so, you can make out a check to St. Joseph Catholic Community and write WSJF on the memo line. It'll be a real boost to what we're trying to do here. Thanks so much. Let's get back to the show. Al and Linda.
Kind of reminded me when we were prepping for the show, reminded me that time we got in a car accident on 95 North.
Right.
South of D.C., we were heading home after a weekend at the Great Wolf Lodge, and somebody rear-ended us, and the car was inoperable. And two families in minivans pulled over, and they were going to New York City, I think. They were going a long ways away.
Right. We were in Virginia.
We were in Virginia. We were going to Sykesville. Mm-hmm. And they both families had little kids.
Yeah, they were in car seats.
They were all in car seats, and they just kind of stayed with us until the police showed up. And they're like, can we do anything for you? And they were just there. They were present with us.
They were present.
So that's, I think, when we hear, sometimes when we hear Father Neville say minister or evangelize, that we take it upon our shoulders that we have to bring that person to God or to Jesus. But that's really between God and them. You just need to show them the fruits of the Spirit, like you said, and just be present and try to help them if possible.
Right.
And it goes back to that show at Walmart when I was trying to help that lady get her cart,
Yeah.
It was something stupid to do, but it was just like funny.
You just brought a little humor to her life in that moment. Humor. And maybe she needed it. Yeah. Obviously, we had a bit of a crisis with our car. I mean, that car was totaled. We were all fine, but it was very scary. It was nighttime.
We were out in the middle of nowhere. We didn't have AAA. We still don't have AAA. Did you pay that bill? Isn't that a New Year's resolution to get AAA? Here it is in February, and I still haven't done it yet.
But being kind and doing something kind in a obvious situation is one thing, but just being kind always because you don't know what everybody's situation is even more important.
Yeah, and sometimes I just want to bring it back. It starts at home too. If you come home and sometimes your kids are at school and they had a miserable day and they're miserable.
Your kids usually run to you and hug you. It's so sweet.
I know, but sometimes I think I get mad at some of the kids, but I'm like, well, what kind of day did they have today? What happened today? The point is to start at home and show, gets back to showing your spouse and your kids the love. For some reason, and I've done this too, for some reason, we take the people closest to us the most for granted. So it's important to show grace to the people closest to us at home. And it's important to show grace to people who, are not at home. People who have different views than you.
Which is very difficult for you.
Me? And it's very hard in this culture because it's hard to show grace on Twitter or Facebook. It's pretty easy to just write something and say, oh, that wasn't me.
Yeah, right. Well, it's a lot of polarizing and needing to be right, not listening to each other in today's culture.
I know. What happened? Me and you remember back in the good old days when it was kind of live or let live, If somebody's smoking a cigarette at the bank, you just move away. Or if somebody's smoking...
We just left the library and somebody was smoking right outside the door and we're all gagging.
I, for one, miss the secondhand smoke. I'm just going to put that out there. I miss smelling the secondhand smoke. I never smoke, but I miss it. So
anyway.
The point about today's culture is for some reason people, and I'm kind of a little bit guilty about that too. I get caught up in it too. It's like if somebody has a different point of view than me, I'm like, I have to convince them that my view is right. Right?
Right.
How many times have I done that to you? In the 22 and a half years that we've been married.
Well, I guess
a Mustang GT is the right family car for me.
Oh, the right family car for you. Okay. Well, that's a whole nother story, but
we'll save that for episode 6.
It's hard though. As Christians, we need to be examples, right? To act in love.
That's very hard.
Show our faith and remember that yes, we don't always have to agree, but we still have to act in love.
Yeah, so your father had a great...
when we were kids, he used
I think
to always say...
the first time I came home to visit you, I think your father said the same. What did he say?
I don't think so. But if, there was arguments in the family or even amongst friends, he would say, once in a while, you can let the other person be wrong.
Oh, I see.
It's an act of love. Does it really matter that they're wrong? Because really, maybe you're just arguing, and it doesn't matter.
Yes.
So you either agree to disagree or just let them be wrong.
Yes. And sometimes I'm going to go totally off topic here, but...
Oh, not again.
And again. So when you get in an argument with... There are some people that I know, and I'm sure you know, who really don't believe in God. And my feeling is with those people, instead of being judgmental, is think to yourself, this might be the only experience today that this person is going to be able to feel the love of God through me. That might be able to help you to give a little bit of grace to some people.
Right.
And to not argue with them and just kind of minister or be with them, like we said.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So besides the Twitter and Facebook arguments that people get into, we were talking a little bit more about...
So, yeah, we're talking about perspective, letting the other person be wrong, but also thinking of the suffering others might be going through. We can always go back and look at Christ's suffering, but of course we have it all around us. I had a friend and my aunt both battling breast cancer at the same time. And that was back in my running years when the Live Strong yellow wristband was real popular. And I was suffering from physical problems. I had been through a lot of physical therapy, and I just kept looking at that band, realizing here I'm whining about some aches and pains, and here my aunt and my dear friend Tracy were battling breast cancer. And Tracy, she made her way out of it and is a very healthy woman now. And my aunt did not win that battle. But, again, the perspective, I was like, I'm just going to run hard, even though I'm in pain, because I can. And so I would pray every time I ran for them and others that were battling with cancer and other awful diseases. And again, just shifting that perspective and, maybe not outwardly showing love, but loving them through my prayer.
Yeah, that's a nice story. So I think too, when you were going through that, you should just think to yourself, I'm just going to run as best as I can today. Who cares about yesterday?
Yeah.
Because tomorrow might be different.
Yeah.
So, and then humility is tough to do also. And I think it's hard to do when you're a father.
Or a mother.
When your kid disobeys you and, you kind of lose it on them. I don't know if anybody's had that experience before or not. So, it's very funny. I mean, our kids are a little bit older now. I can't remember the last time I yelled at them. Although Linda will tell you different. Because, she has a different perspective than me.
It is, yeah. But anyway. But when you lose it, you go back and you apologize and ask for forgiveness. And that's a form of loving.
Yeah, so after I ground them for their life and take away, you're never going to do that again, get my wits about me. It's amazing how forgiving your children will be if you come in and are cool-headed and say, look, I'm sorry. You made me lose my mind.
And your wife, too, or your husband.
Yes. Well, I never make you mad, do I? Is it?
Oh, never. No.
So that reminded me of a couple stories. One is I lost it over something, and there was no punishment that needed to be. But another one, like the punishment was too severe, and I'm like, how do you back away from that, right?
Right.
If you're a parent, you're like, you're grounded for 2 weeks or no TV for 2 weeks. And then you come and your spouse is looking at you like, look, we can't live in this house for 2 weeks without TV or whatever it is. And then go back to your, after you cool heads prevail, hopefully you go back and you explain to kids what's going on, but there's going to be a punishment for this action. I mean, we've been lucky enough that most of our kids accept the explanation.
Right.
And that it opens up another dialogue, really, to talk about what's expected.
Right.
To be in the domestic church at the Grassley house.
Right. Well, and some of those are trivial things. I used to get really upset over very trivial things, wanting everything in the house to be perfect and everyone to behave perfectly. And we had some events in our life that really changed my perspective and my thinking. And now I want my family to know 100% without any doubt that I love them and that I'm always on their side. And even if they do something that might be upsetting to me, that I still love them and that we can work through it together, rather than always trying to make sure everything is perfect or, being right. And I really had to work at that. I just focus on how can I better act in love and be on their side so they know that I'm on their side. So if they do something wrong, I always say this to one of my children that likes to argue back to me when I'm trying to discipline is, I'm on your side. This is, I want you to be a better person. I'm on your side. I'm not doing this to argue with you. I'm just saying,
this is what you need to do.
You need to do this, yeah.
Right. And eventually it'll sink in.
Right.
Eventually.
I think we mentioned in one of the earlier episodes are the 5 love languages by Gary Chapman. I know Deacon Mike, when we've done the pre-Cana, he brings that into the fold quite a bit. But there's different ways that we feel loved, and he calls them love languages. You can take a quiz online on his website. It's 5, the number 5, lovelanguages.com, and it'll tell you what your main love languages are. We probably all have all 5 of them, but there are at least 1 or 2 that are pretty dominant. Yeah, that makes you feel most loved.
There was a couple podcasts on Focus on the Family by Gary Chapman that really was like, oh my gosh, I got to get this book. And it really helped me. It really helped with the kids, I think.
Right.
Kind of how to treat them and maybe how to discipline them if you got to discipline them. And it helped me with you, too, because I wasn't sure how to show you how much I loved and cherish you in this February of love. So it was pretty good.
Right.
What are the 5 languages of love, Linda?
Well, let me tell you.
Please do.
I happen to have the list right here.
Thank goodness.
Well, the first is words of affirmation. And it's not just lip service. It's really telling someone why you love them.
Like, that dinner tonight was spectacular. Thank you so much for making that.
Yeah, it was good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And acts of love or service, that is my main love language. And it's kind of funny because when we went through this book, I think we'd been married maybe 15 years, and it was a light bulb for me, not that that was my love language, but that I always had acts of service toward you and didn't understand why you weren't like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for doing that for me. That's wonderful. I love you. It was just like, oh, thanks. Well, I could have done that.
Exactly.
Or, why'd you do that? I was going to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but I did it out of love.
Right.
But I didn't understand that is not important. But you like to have the coffee maker, even though you've left the house in the morning for work, you have coffee ready for me.
Just once in a while. Because I don't want you to get used to it every day, because then it'll be like, oh, not a big deal. You know what I'm saying?
And
unloading the dishwasher. That's one of my favorite things that I love to do.
I know you hate to do it, but it just makes my day when I come down and that's empty, and it pretty much every day.
Well, now that I know that it's acts of service for you, that's important to me to unload the dishwasher.
Right.
What's another one?
Receiving gifts, thoughtful gifts, things that you know that your spouse or your child would really like, that has some kind of meaning to it. And then,
like a box of chocolates shaped in the heart.
Let's see. Now, do you think that would be a good gift for me? No, I'm not a gift receiver, but it wouldn't, because I would be like, oh, I shouldn't eat those, right?
Yeah. No, I know.
Even though I do like chocolate, And then quality time. I think we both.
Yeah, we both. I think we've grown into that, which is kind of funny because I don't know. I think it might have been yours, and then we just started. It became both of ours.
Yeah.
And then what's the other one?
Physical touch.
Where is physical intimacy? Where is that one?
Well, I think that would be under that, but it's not just that. It's more than that. Okay. Holding hands.
Oh, jeez. Massages?
Massages, yeah. Definitely shoulder massages. Even just sitting at Mass with our shoulders touching. I like that.
Oh, yes.
Kind of thing. Yeah. One of our kids is definitely physical touch, and our other is quality time.
Quality time, acts service, yeah. So that's nice. So that's been very helpful. I can't say enough about that book and about that strategy.
Yeah.
It's been very good for us.
It's been very helpful.
So hopefully we gave you some information about perspective. This show's been kind of scattered, but it's Valentine's Day. Think about the spouse, your spouse, as when you first saw her or him and how much you were in love. And go out and celebrate that, because it's special.
Right.
It doesn't happen all the time, and it doesn't happen to everybody.
And pour that love and grace into your children as well as your spouse.
And if you don't have children, pour it out to people you don't know or people who disagree with you. That's pretty hard to do.
Yeah, we got to work on that one.
So thank you so much for listening. What is our next show? Our next show is going to be what? Number 6?
March. It'll be, number 6. I don't know what it's going to be. I really hope that we do have at least, I heard we might have 3 listeners. So that's really exciting. We're up in it. And we did create a Facebook page.
What? Do we have a budget for the Facebook page account?
Free.
It's free? Are you sure?
So it's called Married and Family Living with the Grassleys. So look it up and like us. We have, I think, 19 people out there now.
Oh, my goodness. Look out.
Moving up in the world.
We are moving up in the world.
And let us know what you think. Let us know if you have some ideas for topics. We'd love to hear from you. All right, folks. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much for listening.
Until March.
Until March. Happy Valentine's Day.
God bless.
Thanks, Al and Linda. We hope you've enjoyed episode 5 of Married and Family Living with the Grassleys. If you have questions or comments, write to us at wsjf@stjoseph.cc. Thanks for listening.